Hello, this video is what I think about, oh yeah, this video is America should annex Mexico. A lot of people are freaked out about, all the 500,000 Mexican immigrants who move into the U.S. every year, and then they continue to be Mexican. They don't learn English, and then, people are freaked out because, once they get to voting age, they're going to outnumber us in 50 years or something, and then they're going to take over the world, and we're going to have some kind of situation like, the Albanians, or the Albanians moving into Kosovo, and then moving in on the Serbians to Kosovo, and then next thing you know, they want their own country, and so like, oh my God, Mexicans are going to take over America, and then then they're going to vote themselves into power, and they're going to secede from the Union and create their own country, of Mexicans. But I think the best way if you're afraid of like Mexicans moving here, and in the future everybody being Hispanic, if you don't want that because you're like, whatever, racist or whatever, I don't know, but if you don't want that, I think the best thing to do is to just annex Mexico, because then they wouldn't, they would be able to come here legally, but then they wouldn't want to if they have just as much money down there as we have up here. And I think it's possible to make Mexico a first world country along with America. They just follow our rules and do the stuff the way we do, and we go in there and we make them one of the states. They have to follow the rules of Washington. And but before we annex Mexico, there's definitely some things that we need to do first. We need to legalize all drugs, so that there aren't those drug wars in there. And then the criminals are going to have to do other things. Some people are worried about kidnapping. But with the technology we have these days, if some rich guy's afraid of being kidnapped, he should just put surveillance cameras all over the outside of his car, looking out in every direction and inside, and with a constant feed to the internet. And then they, if anybody abducts him, you just look at the license plate of the car that approached, or the swagger of the guys who approached, and they probably not all of them are going to have masks on or whatever. And or you just have an armed car and armed guards with guns and stuff. The only reason I think that there's so much kidnapping going on in Mexico is because Mexico is a Latin American country which has a very huge wealth discrepancy. It's also a very corrupt country. I read it back in like 2001. It was or early actually, it was 2002, that Mexico was the 80th least corrupt country in the world. That's pretty bad. That's back there with like Argentina and stuff. America at that time, I think, was about, we were 19 2 years ago, and we're 22 now. We're 21 now. We're slipping. I don't know how accurate that statistic is, because Chile was listed as 22, and believe me, Chile, maybe they were doing it just off of like government, because Chile is an incredibly corrupt country. The people are very corrupt there. But anyways, the best way to get corruption out in Mexico is just to make them follow our laws. And we would bring our military down there and police down there, and police don't want to enforce. Somebody gets their bike stolen, they don't want to enforce anything, because that's kind of how Chile is. Police are just too lazy to enforce that kind of stuff. You just have American cops down there to do it, kind of like Serbian cops policing Kosovo. Just send American cops down there and teach the Mexican police how to enforce stuff right. And as far as, and even like the wealth discrepancy, the only reason that a Mexican is the richest man on the entire planet, for a reason he shouldn't be, just, because he's a cell phone line owner. He used the laws down there to be able to create a monopoly for himself. So if we annex them and make them one of our states, we can make it so that the laws don't allow that kind of person to be the richest person in the whole world, and they have to be taxed. And countries like Mexico, poor countries, are poor for a reason. They're not poor because America. I made a video, America's the greatest country in the world, and a lot of people write, and they're like, oh, but America comes into countries, and just when they're about to have democracy, America comes in and installs a dictator. Well, it's kind of a lesser two evil thing. America doesn't like communism, and You know, if it's a choice between communism and fascism, or oligarchy, or whatever you want to call it, then you know, the fascism is better. I mean, for example, Chile. You know, they're like, oh, Chile helped Pinochet, you know, coup over Allende, but I mean, I heard Allende was was getting ready with a whole, you know, army of tanks encircling the city, and they had death lists of hundreds of people, of all the rich people that they were going to kill and then nationalize everything there, and it would have turned into another Russia or China with like 6 people controlling the whole country, and then they would have been the new rich people, and I don't think that would have helped anything. You know, if you want to make a country like Chile or Mexico, first world, you just have to make them follow by the rules of the way that do the things the way first world countries do it. And the best way to do that is just to annex Mexico, make it one of our states. And then, because Americans go down to Mexico anyways after they retire and stuff because it's cheaper, and it'll continue to be cheaper and all that stuff. But if it's part of the United States, then it'll be stuff will run a lot smoother. We do stuff better up here. You know, and I mean, I have reasons for it. I have videos, difference between first and third world countries, and difference between Latin America and North America. You know, they can't think for themselves because they follow the Pope, and they have the encomienda system, which was like a legally written down, you know, classism. So you just take that away and all that, and it'll be a good country. I mean, I don't think it's any accident that United States of America is called the United States of America. It's the only country, you know, that's named so obscurely. It's like we're America, we're Americans. But then other countries in America are like, but we're Americans too. It's the Americas, South America, North America. But you know, everybody knows if you say I'm American, you mean the United States of America, because that's the only name we have. We don't have, you could call us the United States, but then what's that? It's just states that are united. And that's what we're going to have in the future anyways. It's just states that are united. So just incorporate Mexico in the United States of America. It'll be the United States of America. And Mexico is just another state, just like all the states in America are different states. We annexed Hawaii. That was like, they had a whole kingdom in Hawaiians and stuff. And they're doing great because we annexed them and they do the rules like that we do it. They still have the royal family and the aloha and the dancing with all the, you know, flowers around their neck. They still have the culture down there. They're just a state of the United States. So, you know, I think eventually the United States should just annex every country in the world, you know, and then we'll have the United States of the world, you know, with the capital in Washington. And, you know, and it all stems from America, because America, we do stuff the best here. And that's, you know, and I think we do see ourselves as kind of the empire where we, of course, you know, where we go into other countries and blow them away and install new dictators and stuff. But I don't think we would need to use force to annex all the other countries. We just, and if you don't want to term it that way, you can term it something else. Like, because the fact of the matter is that we will have a one world country. Just like we're going to have one world religion, we're going to have, just look into the future and it's an inevitability. You can't have all these different countries for all of eternity. We're eventually going to arrive at a utopia, and we're going to relax all the trading laws and all of the border passage rules and you know, and I mean, our laws get more and more similar internationally, you know, like renting laws and, you know, the international laws kind of take over certain national laws in it more and more every year. And so eventually it's going to be indistinguishable from being separate countries. It's going to be one. And so basically by annexing Mexico, we can start that ball rolling in having one world country. You know, people can be like, people of parts of the world who can't get along, like the Serbians and the Kosovars. The Serbians still want Kosovo back, when they should just have one country, you know, Yugoslavia again, you know, or or join the European Union, and the European Union is pretty much a country, just like the United States. They have the euro. They can work wherever they want. You know, the only difference is they speak different languages every border you cross, but they don't because they all speak English. So, because a lot of people they're like, oh no, build a wall between America and Mexico and keep the Mexicans out. That's racist. You know, Mexicans are human beings too with feelings, and they wanna have just as much money to do their stuff as we do. It's just that, you know, we can't just, you know, like if you want to help out starving people in Africa, first think about why they're starving. I mean, yeah, sure, if they're starving, give them money, but if they're like, you know, if they're really poor and stuff, don't just give them money, because they're poor for a reason. They don't know how to manage their money. They don't know how to be a country. You know, I mean, South Africa, white people went down there and they knew how to rule. They knew how to have a society, so they had a great country. And then, you know, you kick the white people out and black people control it. And, you know, not because black people genetically are stupid, but they, you know, they didn't have as good of an education, so they just don't know how to run the country, and it goes downhill. Same thing with what was it? Those other countries down there were controlled by whites, and then they like killed the whites and forced them out, and the, you know, their farming operations got taken over by black farming operations who didn't know how to farm. They were just soldiers, and then so the farms die, and then they lose all their money and they become a third world country when they were much better off when the white people controlled it. And you know, and it's not saying that, you know, those brown colored and black colored people are genetically stupider, but they're just, the system that they have isn't as good, and so we want to bring the system in. That's why I'm for imperialism, if you want to call it that, as far as like bringing franchises into different countries, and even, you know, Nike making shoes. If you're like, oh, but you only pay the kids this much, well, that's how much kids get paid in that country, and I'm sure they're treated better working for Nike than they would be for working for their own country. I mean, I've seen how people get abused in countries like that, and yeah, let American corporations go in there and teach them what it means to use a you know, a punch in and punch out clock, instead of having some corrupt guy going, oh, don't use those, you know, I'll write who when you come in and out, and then they shortchange the people, or they fire the people, you know, just because they don't like them, you know, when they, you know, protecting workers is I think is something that American corporations can do when they go there. One really good example about that is McDonald's. When I go to I love McDonald's in third world countries, like for example when I was in Chile the whole time I was there, because I know when I walk into a McDonald's I'm gonna order something and I'm gonna get my burger within like a minute, and I love it like that, you know, and I know how much it's gonna cost. If I go in any other restaurant anywhere in the third world like Chile, you know, they're like, oh, we have to turn on the oven, so you have to wait a half hour, and then when you finally get your food, it's like rotten meat, you know, chorizo, and you bite into it, and then the whole slab of meat comes off, and then you have to like gnaw at it and pull on it. And by then, the bread has deteriorated into nothing. And, you know, McDonald's, and oh yeah, and they charge like double from what a McDonald's burger is. So just go to McDonald's. And then so somebody works at a McDonald's for a bit, and then they're like, all right, well, then they get the idea to, you know, maybe open up their own franchise, and then they'll do it like McDonald's. Like there's Chilean franchises down there that you order something and you can get it just as fast because they have the whole, you know, well-oiled system down, figured out. And I mean, their food isn't nearly as good. You're still going to have the bread crumbling, and you're going to have like a round piece of chicken that's just like thrown in there, you know, so it takes time. But I think, you know, if we annex Mexico, then it would be an example of how different countries can annex each other, and then have like one world order, one new world order. I think that's the way to go, is trusting that the human race can get better, you know, and Mexicans and all can figure out how to have a less corrupt country, and it'll all work out. Just don't be filled with fear. Okay, I'm out of time.